Initiates of the sacred brotherhood of elite MCs. Raw mysterious initiates of the sacred brotherhood of elite MCs. Raw mysterious initiates of the sacred brotherhood of elite MCs. Raw mysterious initiates of the sacred brotherhood of elite MCs. Raw mysterious. Ali is happy when Moors are happy. Vixens wink fake lashes trying to trap me. 40 days and nights battling the lower demons. This is not their land, hybrids can't be freemen. If this is not their land, who's the immigrant thinking they're sovereign? Imagination figment. Recessive is their status, lacking pigment. A game for the Thanksgiving, but no commitment to indigenous Moors they conquered with Bibles. Signs in the vitals and signs in the cycles, only to strangle, embracing my rivals. Free national standards, not playing with the tribals. Each Moor is their own Christ, not disciples. Whether hands or thoughts, no worshiping idols. Always carry my Moorish Quran, no recitals. Everyone will not process ancients' arrivals. Initiates of the sacred brotherhood of elite MCs. Raw mysterious initiates of the sacred brotherhood of elite MCs. Raw mysterious initiates of the sacred brotherhood of elite MCs. Raw mysterious initiates of the sacred brotherhood of elite MCs. Raw mysterious.
Innate mystic ability to show and prove a lesson, coupled with the agility to move you with the message, presence of divine mind to navigate you with a reference, urgent with a purpose, perfect. Emerging urban legends, real more is not a question or a choice or a preference. You are who you are, you should have the same obsession. Broke the same jewels to a dude, the corner, Jane and Western. What you reppin', all that effort, that direction, keep you separate in a world of blind sheep. I was born to be a shepherd, mind like an elephant. Got the paws of a leopard, means I'm wise and I'm strong. Crank you up like I'm a record, take you to the body shop. Correct your lines to true vector manifestations. Matter, energy, and mind, spirit men unsung. Trey Young dropping dimes until you tighten up. You catching splinters from the pine, clean the clouds out your thoughts. That's what keep you in the bind.
Initiates of the sacred brotherhood of elite MCs. Raw mysterious initiates of the sacred brotherhood of elite MCs. Raw mysterious initiates of the sacred brotherhood of elite MCs. Raw mysterious initiates of the sacred brotherhood of elite MCs. Raw mysterious.
Exhale out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, exhale out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, exhale out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. Canaanland.
XL, don't you tell me about the small size. XL from all these schools of thought, or expels, cause you won't answer questions. Saved by the bell, teacher left me guessing. Keep building, but to say I'm not progressive. Keep cleaning, who be letting all the mess in? Keep speaking, cause I know that this world's really my weapon. These demons on the stage to escape. No protection, just an empty section. Vacant vessel, void abbey. How they seen you? Fool, they need a new pit. Start a damn pandemic with all this flu shit. It's just the flu. That man's foot heavy cause in your ass is
exhale out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, 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 and knapsack, book back in the school of life. Traveling the high roads, not a low life. Never break under pressure now, we leave that to pipes. I'm more in the empire, not a housewife. Feminist movement, you don't like that, right? Custodians of the truth, so we're bringing that light. Watching blacks from the sideline, feeling like Spike. Watching a losing game, but we still love them, right?
Right.
Have you seen her? Momoa White phenotype, one of the oldest genetic records of ISIS. Turn your pages back to Genesis. I'm blood relative, a mix of native rules of engagements, contract agreements, Excel, X-Rail, sex sales, but not my birth. My straw's still alive once I give it worth. All rights reserved, you're getting served. I don't mean envelopes. Scimitar swords to the cantaloupes, or the eager throw. Ex-Alpha with a tighter choke. I got love for the room, but different folks deserve different strokes. Or let the pen do the stroke. Reagan was the last, and we still talking coke. We still talking coke. Treaty.
Sell out.
5 on the left, 2 on the right. Peace. Yeah. To become more peace. Yes.
Read the future through the stars, or Tarot of Moors, cut you with the scimitar or shadow sword. Then in Callaway, our names are Moors of Europe, black and Indian, say lion, and selling you hope. Dirty Moors tell you MST is religious, replace Jesus with Drew Ali singing hymns like Christians. Emmanuel I said be a human rights reader, but Ross play games in Moorish Jalabiyas. Nuwapians know the dog gave him circle 7 lessons, and call him a nation of Moors in 360 questions. Hebrew Israelites are Moorish, Zionist Jews, but has the mothers in the back of tabernacle rooms, praying to the patriarch when Ark is the womb. Reincarnated Drew Ali, written on given soon. Drew Ali reincarnated is also Father Muhammad, claiming the prophet, but he's all about profit. Dollar sign odds, 10 grand for a package. King of the Moors, smearing feces, that's so savage. They're not against me, but against Drew Ali. They're not adjective like black collar or Somali. Jumping over Negro and say more means blacks as nigga leaders with scholarship off track. Should face a firing squad with lies like that. BLM leaders, mansions, every state on the map. No guilt or remorse. They face on billboards, but police victims in courts as a status quo wards. Mothers mourning, hiring civil rights attorneys. Most of them are not worthy and job turkeys. Make you march and picket. No one sees you like midgets, no matter how hard you fidget. Choked out for 10 minutes. Been dead for 7 on your highway to heaven. They get off with the wrist slap, but not charged like a felon. You can't see what I can see. You're blind, baby. You're blind from the facts. You can't see what I can see. You're blind, baby. Your mind is so black. You can't see what I can see. You're blind, baby. You're blind from the facts. You can't see what I can see.
That's those black
You're blind,
glasses right
baby.
there,
Your mind is so black.
You said meet them where they're at? Been there, done that. Sounds like you want me going back to being black. Dead carcass, a dead status, same difference. All in experience. Blacks getting shot up, but Moors made them shut up. Double cup, that's protection. Every man to a nation. Negotiate for what? When you have the Constitution. Am I a Negro or what? You need permission, not prohibitive, privilege. Like you're somebody's kid. I guess that's the way we live. Nah, free national standards. I'm nobody's bastard. Land, air, water. That spells law, but you're blind, baby. I told you, you're blind, baby. Message for the percolating. Don't shoot my birdie, more science and facts. Fiction is the movie. Look at where you act. If you don't believe me, then study. Then you will know, and you will grow. You will know, and you will grow. Fly, baby.
You can't see what I can see. You're blind, baby. You're blind from the facts. You can't see what I can see. You're blind, baby. Your mind is so black. You can't see what I can see. You're blind, baby. You're blind from the facts. You can't see what I can see. You're blind, baby. Your mind is so black. This is what it feels like. 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 People running up to me that I don't know. Are you a prince? They ask, tell them I'm from Morocco. Look me up and down with a smile, not a frown. Turn their brain to water, watch the lower self drown. Wanna touch my antennas and steal my energy. Eyes bulge, telling them I'm always King Edward V. When it comes to facts, with most they get beggarly. They ask Morocco where? The farthest northwesterly. With every question asked, I respond cleverly. All dependents warn, explain expertly. Going in their wallets, pull out pictures with feathers, breaking down the ring, then the mason confesses. He's at 33 degrees, now the combo stretches like yoga into esoteric metaphysic lessons. When my people aren't like me, he impresses. When we take Moorish science to the highways and hedges, this is what it feels like. This is what it feels like. This is what it feels like. This is what it feels like.
They tried to get you to think again. That's the profit. I'm upright, don't need a friend. And you can't stop this. I'ma write with my pen. Violate me and I'ma send writs again. Remain cautious, cause often it's in again. That's in the police out is the silence men. When they bust through your door, you won't breathe again. Nationality will show you how to live again. It can change the predicament you're living in. You can heal the whole world without medicine. Only truth can make you a better man. Why lie? Cause you got paid to murder men. Then you try to lock them up when they riot in. That's okay, cause for freedom I'm diving in. With no knowledge, you come back to die again. Resurrect me not, cause I'd rather be one with Allah.
This is what it feels like. This is what it feels like. This is what it feels like. This is what it feels like.
Common sense was made before book sense. Canaanland Moors presents Common Sense Quick.
Legendary, bury me in the North Gates Cemetery, February the 4th days. Son of Mary, day ahead of my born day. Independence and law makes it a little of a lost case. With case laws, we break them down like Jericho. Keeping all my lions tamed, I'm Chris Jericho. I'll keep a mask on deck, I'm Rey Mysterio. Fake pandemics announced over the radio. Annoyed with the game, the joys and the pains. I'm Rob Bass, mixing with rock the hard way. I was in a lost state. Prophets told me up right, brought me to a lost gate. Cooking like I'm Salt Bay, rapping like I'm Denzel. Malcolm X, Deja Vu, Roman J, Israel. Had no but I lay in plain sight, but people still can't see it. So the snake's still showing up, stakes still high, so the race still going up. Warriors of the North Gate, we not slowing up. Born in the manger, sworn to be savior. Walk through the valley of the shadows of the death.
Common sense was made before book sense. Canaanland Moors presents Common Sense Quick.
Legendary, bury me in the North Gates Cemetery, February the 4th days. Son of Mary, day ahead of my born day. Independence and law makes it a little of a lost case. With case laws, we break them down like Jericho. Keeping all my lions tamed, I'm Chris Jericho. I'll keep a mask on deck, I'm Rey Mysterio. Fake pandemics announced over the radio. Annoyed with the game, the joys and the pains. I'm Rob Bass, mixing with rock the hard way. I was in a lost state. Prophets told me up right, brought me to a lost gate. Cooking like I'm Salt Bay, rapping like I'm Denzel. Malcolm X, Deja Vu, Roman J, Israel. Had no but I lay in plain sight, but people still can't see it. So the snake's still showing up, stakes still high, so the race still going up. Warriors of the North Gate, we not slowing up. Born in the manger, sworn to be savior. Walk through the valley of the shadows of the death dip in slavery. Looking for light, the book of Genesis. Astroplane entrances, invoke the nemesis. Abstract images of past lives kicking in. Danger, running for your life. Finish
Hashem, Morris Omar, key man or oracle, using Trinity powers, decipher allegorical, lost in metaphorical, holy books are metaphysic, facts slap a dirty more or a Drew Ali Craig, calling him Thomas or Walter and get your face caved, or cut like a close shave, drowned in my brain waves, squashed by heat waves, activating Kundalini, Abyssinia invaded by Mussolini, Selassie I in exile, reptile in Genesis, niggas appearing real, all I see is false evidence, DA are feminists, stomped on by elephants, won't like go prejudice but want Moorish benefits, when you feel the cold magnetic resonance, Apis horns of the sacred book all maleficent, great cosmic mothers, return to blessedness, no pestilence, ace all the testaments, tap into remembrance, never to forget again, use energy right, not put spell effects on men, wandering the earth plane with no they live shades, keeps you a mental slave as the horizon fades, it's been decades since Christian crusades, not enough rebellions, too many vigil bouquets, holding on to the fence, burning on doomsday, war ruled by Mars, it might be on a Tuesday.
Canaanland Moors presents Common Sense Quick. What we do here is we add some common sense thinking to everyday situations or comments that may arise. Want to give it a try?
Bet they won't. Bet they won't give it a try. Peace and love to all the Moors. Islam. We're here. We're here for our Tuesday session. You already know, a little bit earlier than usual, but we're gonna get right in there. Brother Yusuf, you there yet?
Bet they won't. It's not
Peace, boy. You have a little, because I'm gonna just lead it with where you were going when we were talking. So you just want to intro with when you first watched the Dr. Longo and what it's been watching him since. Just a little intro to why we have to do this.
Now this is our second interview with Dr. Longo, I believe, right?
Yeah, this is the second. Yeah.
Right. But it's good for follow-up because we usually don't have follow-ups. You know, so to be able to have that interview and then watch some of his videos and then come back and do a follow-up and be able to, let the class see what's going on. It's all gonna get put together very, very, very well, because I'm pretty sure Dr. Longo even got even more research for last time that we had our interview, Sure. And then I'm pretty sure Moore's got more questions this time that they probably wanted to ask last time that they weren't able to. They can ask now. So this is gonna be great. This is gonna be a good one. Even for myself, watching some of his videos and him going in on the just watching him not on the Moorish platform, like us interviewing him, but going on other platforms and still giving that Moorish history. Like it's the Moors, it's the Moors, it's the Moors. Like that was remarkable to see, because sometimes people could switch up, because they want to fit the crowd or whatever. So I even wanted to ask him about that. Like, how is it, how is it just staying on the course, on the path of truth, even though you already know that, if you lead towards this side, you probably can get more of a bigger following than you already have, what I mean? Like, but just to keep pushing it, the Moors, the history of the Moors being there, showing Moorish history, showing it, showing the different languages being all just one, with the so-called Native Americans and so-called Arabic all being the same language. He ties all that together with the Greek language. Like he's gonna so to ask him, for proof of what he's gonna be talking about too. Like, for instance, he talks about the Greeks being in Florida in one of his videos and how he has pictures of them wearing fezzes and vests and stuff like that. I'm like, I want to see all of that. I would love to see all of that. So that's good questions.
Yeah.
I'm
Quickly before we get to him, you just got to remember to put the temple plug out there. Don't forget it's July. So we have the Moorish Museum tours going on right now. They're also virtual. So just hit up Canaanland Guide at gmail.com to get on the list for the tour. I know a couple more. I know Brother Yusuf got his last year. So it's something to check out. In-person tours and virtual tours. Canaanlandguide at gmail.com. So let me just.
But Grand Sheik, real quick, even for those Moors who've seen it last year, it's the same thing. Like you go to a museum now, you don't you go to the same museum over and over again because even though you've seen what you saw last time, it's different this time.
Yeah,
you study it in a whole different because your mindset is different than when the last time you got a virtual tour or a tour of the museum. So that's why I was like, yeah, I got a virtual tour last time, but I'm like, I want another one because the mind is different now.
Yeah. Islam. So we're here with our good brother, Dr. Longo, once again. How's everything going on your end? How's everything on your end?
Well, I'm doing very well. Thank you guys for having me, and Cujo, thanks for welcoming me on again. Yusuf, I appreciate that warm intro, the welcome. I appreciate that. And Tariq, I don't know if we've met before, but thanks for joining us as well. And well, I'm just good to be here, guys. And it's Mars Day, Tuesday, Tears Day, like it said in the song. That was a good good reference to the astrology there. I love that. So it's a red day. It's Mars Day. I got a fly in my face. Get out of here.
Fly wants this smoke.
It's one of those CIA bots, maybe.
Yeah. Already, you didn't even start yet. We could start with where has the studies taken you since the last time we connected, and then we'll let Brother Tariq and Yusuf ask their questions.
Sure. We had a great talk last time, and I put the talk we had up on my channel, and it did phenomenally well. People really liked it. So I'll say last time I think we were focusing a bit more on the Muslim and Arabic iconography inside the United States and Canada. And since then, I've kind of been focusing a little bit more on, or maybe not entirely, but a new aspect is I started exploring the DeSoto expedition of the Southeast United States. And a lot of what's contained in there shows just how, because a lot of people will say, oh, well, Moorish this, Aboriginal that. Where's the evidence? Where's the history? Where's the magnificence? And I understand why going to some of the museums today, that's going to be hard to wrap your head around. But if you read the accounts of some of the first Europeans to show up in the 1500s, the cities they had were perfectly marvelous. They were housed for thousands and thousands and thousands of people. These were not just little, muddy villages slapped together or teepees, things like that. And the DeSoto expedition of Florida around 1530, late 1530s, early 1540s. And basically, long story short, they encountered a lot of melanated people, dark-skinned people who they said were darker than Ethiopians. and large as a Philistine. So that means huge, like Goliath. Reminiscent of what you'd see in the NBA today, you know, tall Goliath, men of Goliath stature. And so I've been going down that route. I've been working on a lot of transatlantic contact travel, like the anchors that I think I showed last time. I've got a video premiering tonight at 9 with some more about the anchors and Phoenician history. Because, you know, this is I'll say this. You have the Moorish community, and then you kind of have the Aboriginal community. And sometimes they're at odds, right? And I was unaware of that when I first got into a lot of this stuff. But I think some of what I'm getting into really heals some of those wounds and explains, well, you can have your cake and eat it too. You know, the Moorish Empire was transatlantic, Morocco, America. Now, I think everyone should be able to get on board with that. Now, that being said, everyone should also be able to get on board with the fact that blacks, Negroes, melanated people, copper-colored people, etc., were present in the Americas well before Columbus. I've got some evidence of that too. New evidence. I know there's lots of evidence. I'm not the only guy with evidence, but yeah. So I think
one of the things too, that with regard to the indigenous Moorish thing that you see, that separation that you're looking at, it's based in Moors knowing that even as indigenous people, you have a right to a nationality, and we're saying claim the supreme nationality, not the derivatives, right? The tribes, some European colonist department gave us a title. Now we're somebody, or gave us a little piece of land over there, so now we're somebody. So the division is based on the United Nations, the international community, making it aware to the world that even indigenous people have this nationality right. And if Noble Drew Ali's Cherokee, and he was speaking about nationality, and never called himself Cherokee once, always referred to himself and his people in our culture as Moors or Moorish, then, like you're saying, everybody should be on board with this. It shouldn't even be anything to debate.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
So which is part why we do these things, especially bringing on people who might not consider themselves Moors to say the same stuff that Moors have been saying since Noble Drew Ali's time, with regard to our people who are in, you know, the Americas that are classified as those terms that you mentioned, Negro, black, colored, whatever like that. That the point is that in all the history and all the research and all the whatever, all you're bumping into are these highly melanated people who we know that they're not Negro, black, colored, because the reference point for them are these people in history known as Moors. From the architecture to the clothing to the language to even how we defeat them, it was because of us knowing Moorish history that us colonists were able to do what we're doing to Negro, black, colored people today. But I yield the floor. Any other Moors have any comments before we continue?
Give thanks, Grand Sheik. Islam.
Brother Tariq, you have any comments or questions? Okay, you're muted. All right, he's probably away for now. Go ahead, Dr. Longo.
Well, sure. You know, you touched on something good. More is not the word, the title, and I'm not saying this to everyone out there. You know, we're just articulating this whole concept. More did not get invented with the Spanish and the conflict between them and the Arabs. It did not get popularized or transplanted to America with Noble Drew Ali. It has been here since Europeans first arrived. And they'll show you that with the depictions of the Timucua here in Florida. Okay, the Timucua were depicted as what are called blackamoors, or depicted in blackamoor style, these figurines. And they're exquisite figurines. And you can see how they have the gold, jewels, bling, essentially what you'd see. It reminds me of the Rick Ross song where he says, we've always liked bling. That's not new. It's just the way it's expressed is different today. You look at some of these Timucua chiefs, the Moor with the emerald cluster. I'm sure you guys have heard of this. That's an exquisite artifact, not coming out of Florida, but illustrating a Florida chief. Can I, if I share this down there at the bottom, Cujo? Yeah, so this is a Florida native, and this is housed in Germany. They were reproducing these, and they're called the Moor with the Emerald Cluster. Now that is a Timucua chief. I believe it's Saturina. I could be wrong, but a Timucua chief, and that's jet black skin, very, very dark. And this is sort of what you'd expect to find in 1500s Florida. So not the hunter-gatherer, flint-napping, rough arrowheads in the dirt under a teepee that were shown in Hollywood, of course. This is a culture with fine taste, okay, refined metallurgy, jewels, you name it, and trade, because in Florida, some of these rich guys that they were meeting down there had jewels that only came from 1,000 miles away in America. So that indicates vast trade networks, rich trade networks. And what else? That's another model. That's a kind of like a cheaper reproduction, but the same motif. And you see something I like to see. Behind him is a palm tree. So if he's that tall, the palm tree's that small, what's going on there? But then this is the Moor with the pearl cluster. So this is the Moor with the emerald cluster. And remember, these are titled Moor with the Emerald Cluster, but this is a Timucua Native American chief out of North Florida, South Georgia, that area. And very rich empire. And like I said, the DeSoto expedition was going through this area. Some of the first Europeans to ever meet Floridians, we're told. And this is what they were experiencing. This is the type of people that were coming across. And, I wanted to get into the name a little bit. Feel free to stop me whenever you want and direct this wherever you want to go. But I wanted to talk about the name more, the word, because there's many different definitions. But you want to touch on that, Cujo?
Please, I'll let you do your thing, but I'll give a reference point of Nature Knows No Color Line, J.A. Rogers, Our Fellow Children in the New World, Jose Pimienta Bay, Ancient and Modern Britons, David McRickey. Those three I think give a good all around perspective of the usage of the word. And you could also go to Canaanland Moor's Common Sense Quickies. What is a Moor? Mm-hmm. What is the meaning of Moor? Volume 1 and part 1 and part 2. And you'll find out even when you go to New Zealand and the Maori people, it's the same.
Yes, sir.
It's the same word, spelt different. You know,
Absolutely.
Just being able to change the letters, change the vowels between these two consonants, and it expands into places where you would not have really considered. You know, it
Dialects.
being in words, yeah, it being in words, and you not even noticing that that's the word. You've been using the word for years or whatever. So, yeah, I think it, and this again goes back to the part of it being our identity, to show the vastness of the culture. You know, because if you use any of the other names or whatever that they call themselves, I don't think any of them are expansive as the Moorish name. I haven't seen ancient Egyptian everywhere. I haven't seen Phoenician everywhere, Sabian everywhere. You know, it's always going back to the quote unquote, the more said it in the chat, quote unquote Moorish peoples. These Moorish peoples, you know, that and everybody distinguishes them with, you know, the darkest skin, the biggest lips, the, you know, the whites of their eyes when it's dark, and all this type of stuff. So it's very important as far as the identity part of it, and it would be a blessing for our people to embrace it, but we know the brainwash that's been done to them. So, you know, our work is to be those beings that they read about in ancient times. Be those beings in this time now, so people could actually see it for themselves, to know that, yeah, that saying of return of the ancient ones is actually happening right now, with the return of people coming back to their Moorish consciousness.
Right.
But I yield the floor.
Well said. Well said.
I just wanted to add in Budge's definition of more too, with the hieroglyphs. The definition of more being the high priest of Anu.
High priest of Anu. Right. Yeah, now I'm going to be presenting various ones, and I'm not claiming any of them to be the definition, the original, but I also want to look at the word definition. Definition. We need to know our definitions, all of them, because we don't want to be a deaf Phoenician, right? And the work that we're looking at right now is...
Say that one again, because I know that one went over some people. Say that one again.
I liked that.
Right. So you got your Phoenicians, right? And they're the ones who created phonetic language. That's where phone, pun, phonetics, phonics, all these words come from. And this is where the word definition comes from. To be deaf, you're not hearing, you're not understanding, you can't get it, you're dumb. You don't want to be a deaf Phoenician. Okay, we want to know the truth. We want to know as much as we can. We want to know more. We want to know as more as we can, right? And you said something really good, Cujo. You said expansive. Well, more actually means expansive. More, you know, as much as we can get, more and more. And that might sound bad to some people, like, oh, shouldn't we be okay with a little? Now, Jupiter rules expansion and elegance and excellence and all these things. If there's anything that humanity's been robbed of, it's their pride, their sense of royalty, right? People think it's shameful to consider yourself royal, or it's prideful, or it's blah, blah, blah. So Phoenician is also where we get the word fine goods, also phony. So you don't want to be phony. You don't want to be fake, right? But Finnegan, in the English language, there's one work that rivals Shakespeare in terms of literary value, and that is Finnegan's Wake. Finnegan. Now, Finnegan is pretty much the Irish way of saying Phoenician, or Venetian, or Finnish. And remember, if you want to know more and more, you eventually get to the Finnish line. right? You finish learning, you start something, then you finish it. That goes back to Phoenician as well. Now, more, according to the Irish, is Irish for ancient. Ancient. Now people say, oh, more means death, like mortal, morgue, this, that. Now that actually has to do with the fact that it means ancient. You can interpret that as dead, because that which is ancient is dead. But that which is ancient is also eternal, right? And truthful. Our ancestors have the answers. The word answer comes from ancestor.
Sorry, you have to say that one again, the dead one again.
Yeah, the whole thing, man. The whole thing, man. The whole thing, man. I love that.
Right. So more, some people will say, oh, don't call yourself a Moor, because Moor means dark, or like Mordor. Who's ever seen Lord of the Rings, right? Mordor kind of gives this bad imagery. But that's a kind of a misconception. You could even say a hijack, because more means ancient. And of course, they want to detach us from where we come from. Black, white, doesn't matter. Detaching us where we come from makes us easier to deceive. So you can't have any answers without your ancestors, right? Or if you're anchored to the truth, that's the same word too. Anchored. Your lineage, anchors are attached to lines. Your lineage, your bloodline, we need to be attached. We need to know where we come from, is my point. And they took ancient, the meaning of more, and they turned it into the bad meaning dead, dark, black. If something's dead, it's dying, it turns black, etc. And here's another one. More is English for the drive that builds empires, or for the drive that builds the empire. So they actually have a word in Old English for this spirit that makes people want better, want to build something great that will last forever. And more is actually that word. Now that's pretty extraordinary. More is also Danish for mother. So we find in all these words, even though it looks like the definitions are wrong or different, they all tie back to the same meaning. More is Danish or Swedish, Scandinavian for mother. More. You say your brother is your bror, your mother is your mor in Scandinavia. So your motherland, your motherhood, where we come from. We all come from a mom, we all come from a mother. So that is more as well. Now, more goes back to Mercury originally, in my opinion. Now, some people will point to Lemuria, but I see Mercury as the patron planet, patron god of melanated peoples. Why? Because it's the planet which is closest to the sun. Okay, well, this is your race on planet Earth that is closest to the sun. They're most prepared for sunlight, most equipped to handle it. That's what you'd expect from the planet closest to the sun. And, planets, not everyone's on the same page about the shape and what planets actually are, but that's not really the focus of this. Mercury is Hermes. He is Thoth. He is Mercury. He is Merlin. So this mer is where we get words like merge, mermaid, okay, to be half this and half that, to merge, okay, a merger. Well, mer also corresponds to mar or mare, like the ocean. And we know the ocean corresponds to the mother ocean, right? Well, let's see what else I have in here. I'm going to get to some more of the definitions. Okay, so Moors, you can't talk about America without talking about Moorish history. It's kind of funny. They'll tell us that Moors never set foot in America, but the oldest city in America nicknamed Ancient City, is named for Augustine, Saint Augustine of Hippo. Now, Saint Augustine, now this is before they were calling themselves Moors, but he is a Berber of North Africa. Okay? Augustine of Hippo. And we named our first city, or at least the Spanish did, St. Augustine, nicknamed Ancient City. And I think we looked at St. Augustine a little bit last time we were together at some of the architecture. We'll do some more of that too. But I want to show you what St. Augustine, how he actually looked, according to some. Let me see if I got it. Got a lot of pictures here. There we go. That's St. Augustine. Now that's more of your quote unquote African American phenotype, right? I mean, blacks in Africa typically don't grow beards, not the way that they do like the Arabs or African Americans, quote unquote African Americans. And that's distinctly what you'd call Negro features, right? And this is the man that we named our first city after, or at least the Spanish named it after. And let's see what else we have. We went through the chiefs. St. Augustine, who else is kind of making a name for themselves in St. Augustine? Well, St. Augustine had 2 star forts, if anyone knows about the star forts. One of them was called Castillo de San Marco. Well, the other one was called Fort Mose. And Fort Mose also had a nickname as Negro Fort, or the Negro Fort. And Francisco Menendez, okay, they're going to tell us he's a slave from Africa. And maybe he was, but regardless, the heights that he rose to in St. Augustine is indicative of how this city, the formation of this city is much different than we're told. And St. Augustine was known for having a majority black population for a long, long time under Spanish rule, and then into English rule. As soon as the English took over, all the melanated peoples had to leave. They were now illegal, essentially, or were subject to slavery again. Now, that's only in the 1700s, mid-1700s, where they're now rounding up free melanated peoples and putting them into slavery for the first time. 1700s in Florida. And I don't want to bore you with reading that, but that is inside. This is downtown St. Augustine. And yeah, he's just one of many, many guys, but he's a very prominent figure in St. Augustine history. Well, let's look at St. Augustine. Who knows about Ripley's Believe It or Not, right? You guys ever see those books?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum in St. Augustine, Florida. Now, this looks kind of like a quirky building. Well, this is actually almost 150 years old, we're told. One of the first ever poured concrete buildings in the world. And it's built in Moorish architectural style for no reason whatsoever, sitting in St. Augustine, Florida, the city named for a Berber or a Moor.
Well, pardon the interjection.
Sure.
In the research, because I also asked this to Pasquini, because he was doing a lot of his research about the architecture, in the Americas and it being Moorish. I can't remember if we actually this was the last one, but just to reiterate, how much Indian, American Indian architecture have you found?
You mean like the Asiatic races? Do they have any distinct architectural style?
The ones from over here. Yeah, the ones from over here that they say are the Indians or the natives.
They have no distinct architectural style or relation to a defined architectural style. In fact, they never built anything with a second story, as far as I know, and they're very mobile people. Whereas the counties and regions of America where you have the blackest populations, most melanated populations, you find the most Moorish architecture. And in Florida, the South, Gulf of Mexico, you find very, very, very little of those Asiatic Native American types. And they only typically come move somewhere once they've been granted a bunch of free money and show up for the payday. And then it's like, 15 of them on 100,000 acres or something like that.
Yeah.
And, I find this with, like, in the Miami Circle or all these sites they find in Florida, they'll put out a call for the closest related tribe to come claim the remains, right? And these will be bones in Florida. They'll have a tribe from Ohio show up because there is no tribe in Florida related to the bones they're digging up. We're told all the natives died, were genocided, etc. We know that's not entirely true. Most of them are walking around with us today. I'm talking to some of them, right now. And that's basically the narrative that they're trying to push. But I'm getting sideways. I want to show this building, this distinct Moorish architecture you'll find all across the Southeast United States. And they repurpose it into weird little things like Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum, which houses strange, unusual, disgusting, scary records. Ripley's Believe It or Not is like a record keeping.
Yeah.
It's like Guinness, but strange.
Right.
So here's what it looks like from the outside. And this is what most of the buildings in St. Augustine look like, downtown St. Augustine. It's made out of solid limestone cast coquina. So there's only a handful of castles in the whole world today, because castles have to be cast, meaning you pour it down. You don't build a castle up. That's what most people get wrong.
Castle.
Exactly. That's that T in there.
That's crazy.
And these are actually cast. Oh, whoops. And you could shoot cannonballs at this thing and they wouldn't do anything. The Star Fort over by the water in this city is made of the same material, and it has hundreds of cannonball holes, and they don't leave a scratch. I mean, they make a hole, but they don't make a dent in the fort. So there's very strong material that these people were able to cast this into the walls of this building, and this building is monolithic, meaning it's a single cast. It's one monolithic piece of poured concrete. And what's this guy's name? Franklin W. Smith, who taught Henry Flagler this method of construction, said that he had learned it from the natives who built tabby. So tabby is like a more primitive version of this. But yeah, this is the inside. It reminds me of the circus. How, remember, they would take all this Moorish history and Moorish symbolism and make the circus out of it, make a big joke out of it. The monkey has the fez, and it's just foolishness. People are laughing. Well, I kind of see the same narrative with this, or the same agenda, taking this old Moorish castle and just filling it full of kind of quirky garbage. And not all of it's garbage. You'll see there's some strange connections here.
Yeah, I remember because that was another thing I wanted to ask you about too. My family thinks I'm crazy.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to ask you about that as well, because Moors have gone through that same thing. where now that we're Moors and we're trying to tell people that we're Moors and explain things to them, and they're looking at you like, well, I don't know where you're going with this or whatever. But I brought that up because I remember, having books of Ripley's, believe it or not, because I was into weird stuff, and Ripley's was a fascinating thing for me. I used to read a lot of Ripley's stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He was a weird guy, and he traveled the whole world. And here's something else that was in there. This is a letter from NASA, or someone in NASA writing to someone else in NASA, surrounding the space missions, or the fake space missions, as I like to say. And they sent a peacock feather from one man to the other, and they said, "Best regards to Bill Taub, I don't know, my favorite photographer of space peacocks." Now, what the hell does that mean? Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, not only is this housed in a Moorish castle, this is peacock in one of the definitions means, Moor in one of the definitions means peacock. Believe it or not. Right here, I think I got it. In Hindi, the word Moor, right here, the word Moor in Hindi means peacock, the national bird of India. Wow. And so Moor means peacock, guys. Add that to the list, because you see a lot of these Moors having the fez, the plumage coming out of the top. That's another connection there.
And I just seen the other one, Myrrh is Moor as well. I didn't even put that one together.
Right.
Islam, brother Yusuf.
Islam.
I know you're loaded.
Yeah. I just hope I'm not repeating, because I had a phone call. It was like 30 seconds. I don't know if somebody said it, but the peacock, when I saw the picture, it reminded me of the Montezuma's headdress. Was that mentioned?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that being Montezuma's headdress, but Montezuma's headdress being in what was it? It was cataloged as a Moorish head, like they called Montezuma the Moorish king, and it was known as Moorish headdress. But that's exactly what that peacock or Moor reminded me of.
Yeah. Now Montezuma, when Montezuma was in trouble, who did he call for help? The Muskogee. The Muskogee got the message. He must have sent a raven or a parrot or a pigeon or something. And the Muskogee got their men in arms and made a hundreds and hundreds of mile journey over to Mexico to reinforce Montezuma. By the time they got there, it was too late. Montezuma had been toppled. But that's why the Muskogee.
You know what that sounds like? I'm sorry to cut you off.
No worries. What?
But throughout history, they teach when the Moors fell, when we were looking for help, we called out the Ottoman Empire, and the Ottoman Empire wouldn't help, or they wouldn't show up.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what that reminded me of. That part, what you just said right there.
Can I drill that home?
Yep.
Can I drill that home?
Yep.
Guess what language group Montezuma was speaking? The Ottomangian language.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Yo. Come on. See that? You saw that, Grishy? You saw that? Yo, come on, man. You can't make that up. See how you pay that attention? You see how you gotta, they tell, this is what my friend used to tell me. Even when they lie, they tell the truth. Mm-hmm. Even when they lie, they tell the truth. So I'm glad you said that. That makes it clears that up. It clears that right up. It clears that right up.
Yeah, just to back up what I'm saying, the Muskogee flag is almost perfectly Ottoman symbolism, Ottoman iconography. Now, it's no coincidence that in Mexico, okay, the group of languages being spoken by some of these royal peoples was the Ottomangian, meaning Otto man. Ottoman is in Eurasia. Ottomangian is in Mesoamerica. So, well,
that's them. That gives me goosebumps to see that. Like, okay, so he did send the message out. They did come, but it was too late. But the way they tell the story, the Ottoman Empire, they didn't want to come help them. But it's okay. Thank you. Because I always wanted to know that question for years. I'm talking about 7-8 years. I've asked this question, and you come and you tie that right together, and that's like perfect for me right there.
Yeah, man, I love that one, and that's what if you go look at all the different subgroups of that language, there's all these different names like China Tech. Okay, that's one of the subgroups of that language, China Tech, and that's where you get your Chino in Mexico, right? Your Chinese Mexicans, etc. But I'll keep going on with that little slideshow I had. We'll pick up where we were and
that's no problem. We got 7:55 right now, so we can go as long as you want to go until your next session.
For sure.
Yeah, let me know.
So here we're still in St. Augustine with this slideshow, and St. Augustine's a very important city for anyone who wants to, freshen up or deep dive on American history. You almost kind of have to start in St. Augustine, because why did the Europeans start there? This is where they really set their feet down and said, okay, we're going to try and take over. And they did it from here. Now, one reason is that from St. Augustine, Florida to St. Diego, we're getting a little bit of an echo. One of you guys.
Oh, that's me. Sorry.
That's okay. No worries. So, thank you. When we look at St. Augustine, Florida, there was a thing that was called the Old Spanish Trail. And remember, empires are built off of what? Trade. You can have the strongest men, you can have the most beautiful women, the best fruit trees, you can have you name it, the best blacksmiths. If you're not trading, if you're not reaching out far and wide throughout time and distance, right? You're not an empire. So you need trade, okay? Now, trade routes is what empires are built off of and how they stake their claim. And the Old Spanish Trail goes from St. Augustine, Florida to San Diego, California. Remember, Calif, look at that. It doesn't even say California. It just says Calif, right? They could have abbreviated it with CA, but you get the idea. Also, Florida, FLA, backwards is Alf. Okay, Alpheus, Alphia, all these different words. That's an Arabic prefix backwards. But I know I'm stretching that there, but still, Calif, San Diego, St. Augustine. And what did this mark? This highway went from East Coast America to West Coast. And this was a big enough highway for horses on carriages, horse-driven carriages. This was like a highway. This was probably the biggest road in America at the time of European arrival. Now, the Spanish got here, and they found all these fine goods, and they were, up to no good and taking things for themselves. And they said, well, You mean to tell us this highway is just sitting there and it runs from coast to coast, and it was probably a free trade system along this highway? And what did they do? They claimed it for themselves. They put a globe. This is a big concrete ball or limestone ball. And they took that and they called it the Old Spanish Trail. Or back then it was just whatever. I think they called it Camino Real. The Spanish called this the Camino Real, the Royal Road. The English would call it the Old Spanish Trail. But that's deceiving because, like I said, the Spanish just cleared out a highway that was already there that the natives had been using for a long, long time. And this starts in St. Augustine. Like I said, everything kind of starts in St. Augustine. And here's some more Moorish architecture in St. Augustine. The towers of this beautiful church. This is Grace United Methodist Church in St. Augustine, Florida. All that work up there is terracotta. Terracotta. So rich and iron.
This is the one that had the water in it, right? The one that had the water.
They all do. They all do.
Oh, for real? Okay.
Yeah, all these glorious castles in St. Augustine have this water system. But you're right. So if we look right here, there's water in this fountain. Right? If you see this little what would you call it? Almost a grotto. If you see this grotto here, this thin slit, you can see the refracting of water. You see that? Now this is really high up. This is like 100 feet up in the air. It's like a church tower. So who's putting water up there? It's not. It's just getting fed there. So this is a very intricate hydro energy system. And the other buildings in St. Augustine tell us this. They are glorious. They had free hydroelectricity. So the St. Augustine's just full of this stuff. If you haven't been to Florida, make sure you go there and look at the craftsmanship on this door, on the arches. Remember, Moors are famous for their what? For their archways. Yeah.
That almost looks like Al-Andalus or Morocco over there. It looks just like it. It doesn't even look like it's here.
Yeah. Now, I think what you're seeing here with the Florida Moorish architecture is you're seeing hurricane-proof Moorish architecture. So that's why they built them so strong to withstand the hurricanes. You don't have to withstand any hurricanes in North Africa, do you? So here's an addition of this church.
So hold on before you go further, because
sure,
it might be going fast for some people.
Okay.
So with regard to the hurricane-proof structures.
Yeah.
So the building of these particular buildings in this form, when you're saying it's the one cast to make these buildings, is that the same with majority of the buildings? That
yes,
it's this or that. Okay.
In downtown St. Augustine is a one-of-a-kind city. They'll tell you, even in the Wikipedia, the buildings cast in downtown St. Augustine were the first poured concrete buildings in the world. Okay? Now they're going to say that they were built in the 1880s. I'm going to say they're a lot older than that. But they got bought, founded, repurposed around the 1880s with a bunch of billionaires, Henry Flagler being one of them. And today, this is a church that we're looking at. The other one was a church also. Some other ones we're going to look at are universities. So universities, hotels too. But yeah, these are hurricane-proof buildings. So you'd probably think that looks brand new, right? This building looks brand new. Well, this is actually over or close to 150 years old. Close to. Now, they paint it. Remember, they paint these things probably every year, so it might look fresh. But this is an old building. And you got to ask yourself, why do they nickname this city Ancient City? I mean, that looks like Rome. This is in Florida. So you got the flower of life right there on the top. So yeah, that's what it is. Sorry?
Just to add on with the word or the name Augustine. Augustine means noble. My great grandfather's title is Augustus. And when you look up Augustus, Augustine, Adolf, all of those names mean noble. So
Yes.
it was, yeah.
Well, you're absolutely right, because noble is where we get the word for noble metals. You know, the noble metals are copper, silver, and gold. Okay. Now, August is Leo. August is when the sun is at its strongest. Now, that is why we get AU, sometimes AUG, as the elemental. Well, what's the word? As the element gold, its symbol is AU, as in August, because this is the mansion of the sun. When the sun is at its strongest in the sign of Leo, so AU equals gold. And then to what you say about nobility, nobility is not just being nice or being royal. It's also having strength and doing what's right. So that's where we get the word gust. If you have gusto, you ever heard someone say gusto?
Yeah.
Right? So if you have a gust of wind, that's strength, that's power, it's inspiration, spirit. Awe, gust. If you're in awe of something, right? If you're in awe, it's awesome, awful. It's extreme. It's grand. And yeah, so that's August. Every month has wonderful secrets behind its name. But the connection between August, gold, the sun, St. Augustine, we're really tying it all together here, because St. Augustine is decked out with lions, these lions. So that's the lion, Leo, July, Julio, Julio, and August. July and August is Leo. So you're absolutely right. There's nobility. What's more noble than the sun? And the highest of the noble metals is gold. Gold. A-U. Gold. Okay. So shout out to my Leos out there. But this is what that building used to look like. So that's the new. Let's look at the old. That's hard to use. That's what that building used to look like. Remember, it wasn't attached. That's what it used to look like. This is Grace United Methodist Church. Sorry, Presbyterian Memorial Church. From the front, even more Moorish archways. Now, this is where Henry Flagler, co-founder of Standard Oil with Henry D. Rockefeller. Sorry, John D. Rockefeller. Henry Flagler, best friend and partner of John D. Rockefeller, is buried in that building. One of the richest men in the world when he was alive. Everyone knows who Rockefeller is. Nobody knows who Flagler is. They're best friends. They started Standard Oil together. So this is here's my favorite. St. Augustine, Florida. This one's my favorite. Villa Zoreda. Villa Zoreda is a Moorish palace. On the inside, they kept this one, probably what all of them originally looked like on the inside. And this is supposed to be the first one, 1883. And we see how grand it is. Now I'm gonna go inside here, and it's really exquisite on the inside, and lots of little clues left around there. Because Henry Flagler, the guy that built this, Henry Flagler went up to him and said, "Teach me how this castle was made, so that I can make the whole city like this," or at least that's the narrative. I think I'm gonna walk in here in this one. But you see, they even have arrow slits. That little slit right there, you can barely even look out of. It's exactly the size you'd expect to shoot a bow and arrow out of.
Dr. Longo, quick question.
Sure.
Because you had just said that's the narrative that they give, right?
Yeah.
I was watching one of your videos, and you in your theory, because throughout history they teach that when the Moors retreated, most of them went to North Africa.
Mm-hmm.
In your theory, you're saying that you believe that Moors retreated back here.
Right.
Can you go in on that?
Of course.
Yeah.
Sure. Now, there's two sides to this, is that the Moors were always in America, right? And that's a valid position. But the narrative you're describing is in the context of the Moors as we know them formally in history being this Arabic Islamic empire in North Africa that ventured into Spain in 1491, 92. They were expelled officially and completely from the Iberian Peninsula. And maybe not completely, because they would still be weeding them out. The Moriscos were still in Spain and Iberia, Portugal. But formally, they kicked the Moors out in around 1490. The fall of Granada, 1491. And then 1492, Columbus leaving, departing. The timing is too coincidental. Remember, Spain was not this huge, grand empire that was just hungry to take things over. They had just earned back their own front door. They just earned back their own front yard in terms of territory. So why is it that they're going across the ocean to the other side of the earth to take as much land as they could grab? It would be impossible for them to hold on to it and manage it responsibly. That's why, they ended up losing all that territory to more equipped empires. But what were they actually after? What were the Catholics really after? Because Spain at that time could really just be considered a lackey for Rome. This conflict between Catholicism, Islam, it was raging in Eurasia, North Africa. But like you said, with that fall, the fall of Granada, and the Moors retreating back into Africa, I don't think the story is that simple. I believe that half of them, at least, either escaped to the Americas and just were looking for somewhere safe to run away from, or what I think is most likely is they were retreating, like you said, retreating back to land where they had already been established. They already had people, they already had cities. It made sense to go back there. And when the Spain went there, they weren't just fumbling around looking for spices. They were looking to finish the job. They were looking to stomp out what had escaped in 1491. They were looking, it took, that war kept going. You could say it's still going today with the church versus the troublemakers. And it really comes all the way through to Mormonism. Who else was the government going after? The Mormons. Were they Moors? No, but what's their culture? What is the mythology that they're drawing from? That is Moorish, and that's why they have the Mon. What else was going on around that time? As we're getting farther into American history, 1700s, 1800s, the Barbary Wars, more loose ends getting swept up because the Moorish Empire had fully was expanding at another height at that time with the golden age of piracy. Right, piracy is another one of these derogatory terms and that's how you can trace the Moors across the Atlantic. They'll just say, "Oh, those are pirates. There's just a mix of people with no identity," just like the Seminoles, right? Oh, just a mix of people with no identity. Don't worry about them. Well, there's actually a lot more to be had there. So,
or the blacks, or the Negroes, or the African Americans, they don't have no identity. Don't worry about them. They change it every couple of years. They change our names. We were, like you said, the pirates, the Seminoles. They have no nationality. Don't worry about them. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you said that. Give thanks for that.
Yeah, and it's no coincidence. The only tribe kind of left in Florida, left still kicking, left, able to speak for themselves, at least in part. Seminoles. What is their iconography? It's the Moorish crescent. It's Moroccan colors, Turkish colors, Ottoman colors. So it's all right there. It's all easily learned once you know what to look for. But I'll keep going through my little PowerPoint, and I'll show you just how Moorish St. Augustine is. So if you could let me share that, thank you. So these are all in that building I was showing, this one. All of these are hanging up in there, and you're going to see just what the interior of that building looked like. And this is how they were living in the late 1880s in Florida. Now, these are pictures depicting many different things, but I'm just going to show you, especially once you see the interior.
Are you saying these pictures that you're showing us are how the people were living in the 18?
No, I'm saying this is what was on the walls, and the interior is what I wanted to show you.
Okay.
You can see how their house was decorated. These paintings are newer, but the structure, the interior, here we go. This is what I wanted to show you. This is largely original furniture. And just wait, it gets a lot nicer. This is like the crappiest room in there. And this is all original. So the paintings were probably newer. This is all original. This is called the harem room for the ladies, right? It's where the ladies would smoke their hookah. But here we go. So this is the courtyard. This is the center of that castle, the middle. This is all original. Here we go. I mean, the archwork is amazing. It's still standing.
Is there a water fountain in there?
There might be at the middle. Let me look. I don't remember. But this is what I wanted to show you.
Oh my goodness.
You got blackamoors all over this place. And see, blackamoor bust. That's exactly what they were calling the natives of the Southeast United States.
How far is this from Jacksonville?
It's not far at all, like an hour and a half max. Let me look. Got to look at a map.
Was Georgia part
It
of Florida?
was.
Wasn't Georgia, yeah, in the Carolinas and all of that, wasn't it?
Yes, so La Florida. Now, people got to remember, Florida's not just Florida historically. When the Europeans first landed in the United States, meaning everything attached to Florida, they called all of that land La Florida. La Florida. So La Florida was all of the United States, even going up into Canada, at least from the Spanish and the French perspective when they landed there. Now then when the British came, you had East and West Florida. East Florida, a little before that too, extended from all of East Coast Florida up to South Carolina potentially. And then West Florida was Florida, Alabama, and New Orleans and parts of Texas. So it's really this whole Gulf Coast, the true Fertile Crescent here in the Gulf of Mexico. And Blackamoor bust. The name Moor derives from the ancient Berber tribe of the Moors in Mauritania, a Roman province in 33 BC. Now, here's a good one. I like to tell people this. If Roman is these people, because remember, Catholic comes out of Roman. That's the Roman Empire with a new face, a new corporation model. Rome became the Roman Catholic Empire. What happens when we take the word Rome and turn it backwards? I'm so blown away that more people aren't talking about this. If the Romans, in the form of Rome, the Roman Empire, was fighting the Phoenicians and the Carthaginians and the Berbers, okay, why is it that later the Roman Catholic army is fighting the Berbers, the Arabs, the North Africans, the Moors also? Now, so that's Rome fighting the Moors for hundreds of years. Why is it that Rome is literally the word more backwards? More, Rome. More, Rome, right? Here's another thing. More has to do with the ship, docking a ship, right? To moor something's to tie it up to, yeah. So if you're mooring a ship, you could also row a ship. So the Romans are people who row the ship. Mormons, more, are the people who tie the ship up where the ship was landing. So the mooring has more to do with the homeland, like we were describing earlier. And the Romans has to do with who was rowing far away from the homeland. The mooring, the rowing. Mormons, Romans. Row, row your boat. You guys get the idea. So this Blackamoor bust, you've also got the 33 BC, right? Of all the years they could have chosen, 33 BC. The Moorish cities were more prosperous and artistically more brilliant than any Christian cities at the time, and Moors carried the torch of learning and civilization when the rest of Europe was plunged in barbaric ignorance. It is easy to imagine that our bust of a distinguished Moor chieftain, with his finely chiseled face and beard in black marble, was a leading citizen. His draped robe and turban are carved from ochre and white Beijing marble. It was the Blackamoors who built the Alhambra. Now that mansion is modeled after the Alhambra, they'll say. And you see the women used to hang out here and drink tea and stuff. St. Augustine, 1930s.
Pardon self, Dr. Longo. What building is this again? For somebody in the chat was asking what building is this?
Villa Zoreda or Villa Zoreda. Villa Zoreda. Zorayda. Yeah. And there's another one. Another Blackamoor holding the fruit above his head, right? Red sleeves, the skirt. Blackamoor, the red lips, If they're going to paint his lips, why not paint his hair? Why not paint his... It's because they're clearly explaining, you know, the phenotype of this person. And here's some more, the inside, interior. Just really, really nice place. They must have been building these places good because they're still standing. Meanwhile, everything that we've been building in America in the last 50 years has crumbled. Right? So, different mindset the people had back then. They built to last.
That reminded me of when Master Teacher Taj Tariq Bey said in one lecture, when the Moorish Empire fell, it set the world back thousands of years.
Right. Yeah. You see, they've got one of the fezzes on display here. Oriental Palace, A.S. Musalam. Oriental rugs, antique relics, all this stuff. East India draperies. Remember, so this guy summered in Michigan, wintered in St. Augustine. Well, Michigan is the same word as Muskogee and Mexico, believe it or not. Here we go. Architect leaves lasting impression on old city. Now that's a building that's not here anymore, but was built in the same style. Lots of other stuff I want to cover. And this is an alleged, this is not the building we were just looking at. This is a different building down the street. We haven't looked at yet, but this is allegedly how they were constructing it. There you go on the bathroom, star and the crescent moon. Your black figures and a gold horse. Another blackamoor. That's what this place looks like. It's crazy. And I think this was a telephone room. I could be wrong, but I think they had a telephone in there. Another blackamoor. This one he has a fish. He's half, this guy's a mermaid. He's half fish, half sea monster. He's got a fishtail at the bottom.
Hold on. But there's a big uproar about the mermaid movie right now, and because of who the actress is and her being a melanated actress as playing the mermaid, and then you're gonna show the ancient mermaid figurine. I love it. I love that. That was perfect. I love that. That was perfect.
Yeah, man. He's
that's ancient though. That's okay. Because I'm like, okay, so the concept of the mermaid, we're looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
The origin of the fish with a person. That's Moorish.
Right. Well, the word "more," like I said earlier, is the word "mer," to merge.
Oh, God.
Why
did I know that? Yeah, all right. I'm supposed to know that. I'm supposed to know that one. That hurts. Yep. He's right.
See, this is Venetian art. Venetian, same word as Phoenician with a PH and a Finnish with an F. Got your elephants. Florida produces the most mastodon bones in the world. Mastodon, it's just a prehistoric elephant. It's just the American elephant, essentially. So yeah, this place is really nice. Villa Zareta, for those who want to spell the name. Villa Zareta. Franklin W. Smith, that's the guy I was talking about, who learned this learned the building method. And look at this, the building's second owner, Abraham S. Musalem, right? Not just Joe Smith moving in here, or Peter Parker coming in. It's what's the guy's name? I forgot it. Abraham Musalem. So he knew what he was looking for. This is a different building. This is the Alcazar. So another Arabic or Moorish name. This is the Hotel Alcazar, also built by Henry Flagler. In the same year, he built all this other stuff, allegedly. So that's the Alcazar. And then that is the, what do they call this one? They're castles. So even though they look different, it's the same material. Solid limestone cast. They call that one Casamonica, Hotel Casamonica. Now we're in Ponce de Leon Hotel, or the Flagler College, Flagler University, that it is today.
Is this still St. Augustine, Florida?
Yes, sir. It's all St. Augustine. Everything we're looking at right now is St. Augustine.
Wow.
This place is glorious. I've had a carpenter talk to me and say that the woodwork in here alone would have taken 5 years. But they allegedly built this entire castle in a year and a half. So they've got the 12 signs of the zodiac on here, all these different gods and goddesses.
Yeah, this had to be here. It had to be here before.
Yeah. And they've got cuts of etc. This is the outside of that building. One of the towers. Now you said, is this the water building earlier? This is the building that has a hydroelectric system built into it, allegedly by Thomas Edison himself. This was the first hotel ever to have complete electricity. And the other one was Henry Plant's Plant Hotel in Tampa Bay, which we're going to look at too. Those both had electricity at the very opening. Full electricity in the late 1800s. That was unheard of.
It's like they just came in and turned the switch on.
Right. Or figured out a way to charge nickels for it, This is under the castle. This is like it's like Hogwarts. This place is like a real life Hogwarts. This is underneath the school. There's a little tunnel that goes underneath. Look how nice they make their tunnels. Their little it's like a fire escape. That's my buddy, Jeff.
I could just imagine what's underneath that.
Right. It goes down even more.
Yeah.
It does. And this is that other hotel I'm talking about. So now we're leaving Tampa. Now we're leaving St. Augustine. We're out of St. Augustine. Now we're in Tampa Bay. So Tampa Bay, if you know anything about the Moors escaping, there wasn't just a retreat to the Americas. There was also a retreat to the Pacific, right? You have Moors in Japan, Singapore, the Philippines. The Spanish-American War actually involved the U.S. Navy going out and hunting down Moors in the Pacific. And they were on this kind of Tom and Jerry chase out in the Pacific Islands. And do you know where that war was being staged from? Right here in the Tampa Bay Hotel that was built in also late 1880s in Tampa Bay, built out of red brick and coquina. Not coquina because it's a different shell, but it's also this limestone shell material. And this is built also in Moorish architectural style. And at all of the tips of the minarets here and ziggurats, you find Moorish crescent moons.
What, is it oyster shells?
Some of them. Oh, and there's a spring. Sorry to
No, it's all good.
cut you off. You asked about the spring coming up in that other building. This is a freshwater spring coming up right underneath this university. And it pops up right here and makes this little like lazy river. Tiny little river. This is fresh spring water. Fresh Florida spring water. It looks dirty because it's, not moving, stagnant. But this comes up under that hotel. It's a university today. But this is what they would have been getting their energy out of 120 years ago. Spring water. The energy in water. And I imagine this is much of what the Moors were protecting, were these hidden sciences, hidden technologies that allowed humans to prosper in freedom, not be taxed for energy. It's not really a race thing. People say the white people came in and took it all over, and there's truth to that. But what really came in and took over was the decision to charge people for their basic needs. This was not commonplace in the Americas before. And we've been convinced that there was no energy prior to Thomas Edison, okay? When in fact, the late 1880s, the finalization of the industrial age was them taxing everything, implementing a way to tax the electricity, tax the water, tax your income, of course, but separate man from his needs, from what he needs. Mother Nature provides for all of us abundantly. So these parasites have separated man from our needs. And that's what they do with the oil. Is oil bad? No. But is oil, does man having to work all week so that he can put money into his car, so that he can drive to work, so that he can work all week, so that he can make money to put in his car, so that he can drive to work, and you get the idea. That's what's wrong with the world. And these buildings kind of hold the key to some of that. What do you find over and over again? Durable materials that are capable of storing energy and electricity, like red brick, limestone, these types of things. Access to spring water. There's no abundance without abundant water. That's our most important need in the eyes of most. And so that's why these buildings matter, if anyone's asking that question. Here's the Tampa Bay Hotel as it looked in the late 1800s. And the iconography here is, not what you'd expect for Florida. This is South Florida now. And it's distinctly Moorish, Arabic. We're told that America gets all of its Moorish influence just from a small period of Spanish occupation. I don't think that's true. Wouldn't the Spanish hate Moorish imagery and symbolism, having just been at war with them and being enemies with them? It's strange that they would leave so much Moorish influence. But we both know that's not true. That's just the way we're told. So Tampa Bay Hotel, this thing is glorious. It's huge. I didn't know it was up on that big of a hill. But this thing's crazy, man. Here you have another angle. So the Spanish-American War, okay, was headquartered from this building, meaning they would pull the boats, the Navy ships, right up along the river and put all the troops in, and they'd have all the horses practicing training in front of this hotel. And this was the headquarters. So all the bad decisions or hijacks that were getting planned were coming out of this building. That's not what it was built for, but that's what it was being used for at the time of the Spanish-American War. And Teddy Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt with his Rough Riders, they were staying here. They got on a boat here and then went to Mexico, maybe Cuba, Mexico, I think. There's it from the bridge, trolley system. They've got trolleys. They have got trolleys, electricity, things are moving. 1913.
Yeah. The first cars were conveyances. The first cars were electric cars. The push to start was the original way to start a car. That's not new. That was actually the original way. It was Henry Ford who took over and bought out the electric companies and brought in the oil for horsepower and stuff like that to make money for his oil companies.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and Ford retired to Florida. Henry Ford and Thomas Edison were best friends. They might have even been butt buddies because they lived back to back in a property in Florida. The Edison Ford Winter Estate in Florida. They lived back to back. They spent a hell of a lot of time together. And they actually started a road trip that started in the Everglades. And that road trip that started in the Everglades ended with a World Fair, the Pacific Panama Exposition, the World Fair out in California or whatever. That's where this road trip that Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, and Harvey Firestone. So, Edison did your electronics, Ford did your motor and your engine and your car, and then Firestone, to this day, how many of us are using Firestone tires? Firestone tires. That goes back to Harvey Firestone, this buddy of Edison and Ford, and they all were hanging out, spending their time in Florida with this hollow earth cult. I got a video about that. That's another discussion for another day. But so this building work here dome work is stainless steel. Pure stainless steel. All the tops of these domes, onion domes. You know how expensive that is? And labor intensive? There's a reason no one does that today. Literally nobody.
I mean, you can't do stuff like that. What if electricity hits it? What if lightning hits it?
Well, it's probably what they wanted back then.
Exactly.
Charge the thing up,
Thank you. Yep.
And here's just some information about that statue I was showing early. The Moor with the Emerald Cluster, it shows that Native Americans, Timucua chiefs, were in fact being referred to as Moors, Blackamoors, upon European arrival. And just some more definitions. Irish, Moor, we said that it meant ancient, but what else does it mean? Big, down there, amor. Amor, that's love in Spanish. But what else is it? The Amorites from the Bible. Amorites, who were debatably a race of giants. So more means big. Of course, today we say, oh, give me more. You're saying bigger. I want more of that. And we already looked at this with the milk, the mother, large, swamp, purple, dark, black. Augustine, we spoke about. Oh, I want to close with this one. Quote from Peter Lamborn Wilson. This is Britain, so ancient Britain, old Britain, means the sea. The Moor simply means the sea. Czech or Slavic, Moor means plague or pestilence, right? So this kind of goes back to that dark, black, decay, death. Remember, we said Moor meant ancient in Irish, in addition to big. But they took the ancient, turned it into old. Old became dead. Dead became black. Black became dark, or vice versa. Dead became dark. Dark became black. And that's where you get your negative interpretation of the word Moor, like Mordor, murder, right? Lemuria with a U-R. That's the same word as Moor. Mu, Lemuria. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that Lemuria is the origin of Moor, but there's truth to it. There's certainly truth to it, because if Moorish people often claim we're the melanated people indigenous to most of the earth, well, that's kind of the Lemuria story. That's kind of the Mu story. For anyone familiar with Blavatsky and Steiner and Manly P. Hall, Kurdish, which also Turkish, violet or purple. That's the highest chakra. The highest chakra. And I've talked about on my channel, why do Moors wear the red fez? There's many reasons. I don't know them all. But I'll say one is that we have a chakra system. And down at the bottom, you have your red chakra. Now, you have 7. And 7 implies music, because there's 7 notes in a musical scale. So when you go from the bottom red, up to the yellow, up to the green, up to the blue, up to the indigo, up to the violet, once you hit that note, the next note is the first one repeating. This is what's called an octave, or the eighth. The eighth is the first repeating. So on top of the violet chakra, it would make sense to repeat this sequence on top of the head with red again. So you're connecting the bottom to the top, the red to the red. And I've also shown all the Moorish animals in America, red-headed animals that inspired this red-headed garb. But yeah, purple. Why else does purple matter? Because the Phoenicians, going back to the Phoenicians now, who invented phonetic language, sea travel. They didn't invent sea travel, but popularized sea travel, sea trade, the first great maritime empire. They
and
made,
also too true romance with the eggplants.
Oh yeah. I love that scene. That scene's funny.
The purple. Yeah, the purple.
Right. Well, the Phoenician dye, it all ties back to royalty. Purple was the color of royalty. So the Phoenicians built their empire, we're told, off of their access to purple dye. They were the only people who had this purple dye in large quantities. So we find this connection again. Purple, red, royal blue, these colors only come from certain areas in the ancient world. And the Phoenicians had dominion over those areas. So like I said earlier, Norwegian, Swedish, Danish, all the Scandinavian languages, Moor means mother, mama, moder, mutter. Old English, we talked about that. Here's another meaning, is that Moor means mountain, or Moor with 2 O's, like commonly spelled, actually means a hill. It's a hill, right? It's a hill. It's Small mountain, a round mountain. Now here's where we get to Tolkien. I'm a big fan of J.R.R. Tolkien. And it bothers me when some people say, oh, he was anti-Moors. He didn't like the Moors because he named Mordor after the Moors, the bad place, you know. Now that's kind of an oversimplification, but we'll read this. Mordor has two meanings, the Black Land or the Dark Land in Tolkien's contrived language, Sindarin, and the Land of Shadow in Quenya. The root Mor, dark, black, also appears in Moriah. Dor, meaning land, also appears in Gondor, stone land, and Doriath, fenced land. So that's J.R.R. Tolkien, creator of Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. He named Mordor for Mor, also Moriah, the mines of Moriah. And it just means dark. It is, you know, the takeaway there. He's not saying it's the evil place, even though it is the evil place. It's a connection to darkness. So nothing to take personally. But it matters, this connection to darkness. Why was the Green Lantern the only black superhero originally? And now they've added a bunch and blah, blah, blah. But the Green Lantern, historically, like, you know, me growing up in the 90s, Green Lantern was kind of the only black superhero, at least that I saw on TV. Now, why is that? Because the Green Lantern represents Mercury, Thoth, Hermes, Merlin, Odin. This is Wednesday. Wednesday in Spanish is miércoles. That's for Mercury, miércoles. In English, it's Wednesday. Weddings. That comes from Odin. And remember, we were talking about merging. Merging. Well, if you wed something, wed, that's to bring two things together. Wed. Wed, wedding is also merge, is also marriage. Merge, marriage. What else does Mercury rule? Mirage is that which you see, deception, being tricked by appearances. So Mercury rules these things. Mercury rules symbols, signs, geometry, the sciences, music, art, things that are, you know, bastions of.
Pardon the interjection. I have just a reference point to put out. Just as I was waiting for somewhere to get in. Just as you brought back the MER and merging. This is from the Masters and the Slaves. Honors to all the Moors who study. The Masters and the Slaves, a study in the development of Brazilian civilization by Gilberto Freire, Freyre.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what he said. Long contact with the Saracens had left with the Portuguese an idealized figure of the enchanted Moorish woman, a charming type, brown-skinned, black-eyed, enveloped in sexual mysticism, roseate in hue, and always engaged in combing out her hair or bathing in rivers or in the waters of the haunted fountains.
Wow.
Love
that.
Yeah. These latter also had dark tresses and dark eyes and bodies painted red, and like the Moorish Nereids were extravagantly fond of the river bath to refresh their ardent nudity, and were found too of combing their hair. What was more, they were fat like Moorish women. And making this reference to these mermaids being Moorish.
Wow, that's I love that, man. There's some real literature behind it.
Yeah. Well, give thanks for your time. It was a great session as usual. It was a great session as usual. Brother Yusuf, you have any closing remarks?
No, I just want to.
Questions? If you have any last questions too.
No, I don't have. I don't really have any questions. I just want to. I'd rather give much thanks to Grand Sheik for even opening for having a platform like this to get information out, like what Dr. Longo was putting out right now. Like that. This is a very key moment. I'm reading the comments in the chat. A lot of people are enjoying themselves. Like it was a great lecture, because it would usually be a lot of trolls or whatever in here. It was just a lot of people loving class today. So it was a great time. I give much thanks to both of you. But Dr. Longo, give thanks to your time for today too, because I know you got a busy schedule coming up.
Oh well, I'm busy for you guys. This is where I want to be, talking to good channels. So this is right where I want to be. Happy to be here.
Do you have any closing remarks for the Moors and just people in general?
Yeah, thanks for having me. And next time, if we do this, you're welcome onto my channel if you'd like.
Yeah.
And also, what was I going to say? Oh, this is only like a third of what I had prepared, so lots more we can talk about. Thank you, Yusuf, for hosting me as well, and Cujo, I appreciate always being here. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll definitely set up again and get on your side for the next session.
For sure.
We'll bring it to your side for sure. Peace and love to all the Moors. Give thanks, Dr. Longo.
Oh, one quick thing. Do you want to put your channel out there, or whatnot, so we can tune into your next live, or so we can watch some more of your videos?
Right. Yeah. So, Old World Florida on YouTube. Old World Florida on Instagram. I've got a Twitter. I've got a Patreon. But Old World Florida on YouTube, that's the best place to find me and to catch up on a lot of this stuff. So, yeah.
And he's being modest. Those videos is crazy he got.
Well, we've got one dropping tonight at 9. So
yeah, about to get over there right now.
Right now. Yep.
Peace and love to all the Moors in the chat. Give thanks for your time and the energy today. Honors to all the mothers and honors to Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Give thanks again, Dr. Longo. And we'll be in touch.
Wait. Could I finish with a quote?
Oh, sure.
To finish us off, and we can just end it right there. You won't have to tie it again. I promise. It's a really good one. Here we go. Real quick. I don't pretend to be I don't know much about the Noble Drew Ali, but I really liked this quote. It's not from him. It's from Peter Lamborn Wilson, but it's about him. As for me, I admire, above all, Noble Drew's aesthetic, his unique and special blend of Afro-American, Native American, high magical, and Oriental symbolism and imagery, as well as his courage, his martyrdom, and his revolutionary stance against Pharaoh. By Americanizing the prophetic spirit, he injected our culture with a kind of folk Sufism. On the esoteric level, anyone who loves truth, anyone who loves love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice is a member of the Asiatic race and the lost and found Moorish nation of America. End quote. So, yeah, man.
Islam.
Good stuff.
Peace and love, Moors. Islam.